Hello and welcome to Common Ground, the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy's 2020 annual meeting. I am Vancho Casio-Hockheimer, board member of the Conservancy.
And I'm Dave Schaub, Executive Director. We're really happy to be gathering with you virtually tonight, despite the challenges. Thank you so much for your perseverance in sticking with us and making it over to this link. We really do, even more so than ever tonight, look forward to the times when we're able to meet again in person. Thanks for taking the time to tune in for this update on the good news of our recent conservation accomplishments, as well as for the business of introducing new board members.
Tonight's event is a celebration of the land and water protection success that you, our partners and supporters, make possible. It's also a formal meeting of our members so that you can hear from our board and ask questions about our mission impact. Here's a quick overview of our plan for this evening.
You'll be hearing from a number of folks from the INLC community, starting with 3 of our board members. They will describe a bit about the general focus of our recent and upcoming work. Then Chris DeForest, your favorite, our Conservation Director, will describe how our mix of private and public land protection projects fits into the larger landscape of the Conservancy's regional conservation priorities.
Next, we'll acknowledge 2 board members whose roles with the INLC are changing as we welcome 3 newly elected board members. Then we'll present our annual Conservation Hero recognition.
Finally, we'll watch an inspiring video that captures how we are connecting people like you to nature by conserving lands and waters essential to life in the Inland Northwest.
At the end of our presentation, we will take questions through the chat feature here on YouTube Live. As questions arise during our time together, please drop them into the box and we will address as many as we can. Our staff will be addressing some of the questions in writing, and at the end of the program, Tom Dunfield will help us with our live Q&A. So please don't hesitate to use the chat for your questions.
I will make a note that if you are unable to use the chat because perhaps you don't have a Google login or YouTube login, I believe Todd will be dropping his email address into the chat, so feel free to ping him with an email question as they occur to you throughout the program. But before we get started, we'd like to take a quick minute to say hello to each other. I see that we're now up to 35 households that are tuned in. That's great. We hope that more will join us over from the other stream. I know that many of you are longtime friends of the Conservancy and each other, and I've seen that many of you have already said hello to friends out there. But if you are inclined, I just welcome you to introduce yourself via the chat, say hello, and keep your eyes on who else is out there, and feel free to make conversation amongst yourselves. Todd Dunfield, our Community Conservation Program Manager, will be helping us manage the chat tonight. I've already mentioned that Todd will be dropping his email, so please, again, don't hesitate to email your questions or comments to Todd, and he'll be sure to get them to us. I'm just looking in at the chat. I'm not seeing any questions or concerns. I'm seeing some hellos. John DeForest sends his hellos from the Woodwell DeForest household. So glad to see Rob Allen is there. Susan Vernig, hello. Paul Knowles is here. Tom Sandberg, or Sahlberg, sorry, it's a long ways away, that screen. It's hard for me to read everyone. Heidi Lasher is here. Good to see representation there. So anyway, thanks so much for participating and chiming in, and please continue to do so throughout the night.
To start off our program tonight, we'll hear from 3 of our board members as they reflect on the impact of INLC's recent work.
As a board member, one of my primary missions has been to enhance the visibility of Inland Northwest Land Conservancy in the community, and to do that by connecting people to nature.
INLC has a number of great projects going ahead. It's hard for me to choose one that I particularly favor, but I think the work on trail development is so important for our region. We've got habitat restoration projects for land we've recently acquired.
I'm sitting here today looking out at the lake, Hayden Lake, and to the east of me, and to the west of me is the Richards property. It could have been developed, but the Richards family this year decided to put it all into a protective easement, all that undeveloped space, so that it remains this beautiful meadow as a gateway coming into Hayden Lake. Right here at the end of Hayden Lake is one of the biggest recharging of the aquifer in our area, and 45 million gallons of water a day go and recharge our aquifer. So it also protects our drinking water. So this is a really good news story for the Land Conservancy this year.
As a National Park Service employee, I spent probably my last 20 years as a park manager, often as a superintendent. With those types of jobs, it's really important to have your finger on the community pulse. I found out land trusts really can do that for us. They know the local players, they know what makes things work.
It's one of the few things that is uniting rather than polarizing in this day and age. Conservancy and the work that's being done, it really brings the community together on the same page, and we value the same things.
I've seen firsthand the effects of growth on the community, and I understand the importance of working together with community partners to grow smart.
It's like a legacy that we have, and it's a stewardship we have now to make these places protected and available and accessible to people and to the animals and to the trees. And so it's, facing things like climate change and all kinds of sad, terrible things, and we can do something about it in our little niche of the world.
So the work that we're doing is an investment in the future. It's an investment in the land, and it's an investment in people.
We can't save all the things going on worldwide, but we can take care of our backyard.
We are so fortunate to have a dedicated and visionary board helping to guide our work now and into the future. Thank you, Rob, Julie, and Tom, along with the rest of our board, for your commitment and leadership. As you know, we also have a devoted staff of conservation professionals committed to driving our mission forward. This team is entirely committed to keeping pace with our region's land protection needs and opportunities. I am so proud to work with a group of professionals focused on conserving the very best of this rapidly changing region that we are grateful to call home. Let's hear now from Chris DeForest, our Conservation Director, for an overview of our successes from the past year.
For thousands of years, swans and other birds have migrated through the Coeur d'Alene River corridor. And then, 100 years ago, mining companies began dumping their waste into the river. And in the spring floods, the waste would flow out into the floodplains. And then the birds would come through and feed in those contaminated waters and die of lead poisoning. And then a trust fund was set up to clean up and restore and protect those lands. I'm happy to report that in 2020, we protected 2 more of these important properties that are critical to migrating waterfowl, bringing our total of protected lands to over 540 acres along the Coeur d'Alene River between Cataldo and Harrison. We've protected more land that recharges the Rathdrum Prairie Spokane Valley aquifer that 500,000 of us depend on for clean drinking water. This past year, we protected the 67-acre property at the outlet where those 45 million gallons a day go right into the aquifer. Also this year, we protected more land in the Dishman Hills, the wild heart of Spokane. The Sproul family dedicated their 110 acres of land to wildlife habitat to be a private wildlife sanctuary protected from unwanted development forever. Another hidden refuge that was protected through your Conservancy this year was 200-some acres on a cold, clear trout stream tributary to the Pend Oreille River in Pend Oreille County. And we're so pleased to have this landowner among our group of 60-some landowners who have chosen to protect their lands and protect the prime habitat, water recharge, and scenic beauty that we all enjoy. I'd like to report on the Little Spokane River watershed. Over the last 20, almost 30 years, your Conservancy has protected now 6,680 acres of lands and many miles of streams, acres of wetlands, culminating this year with the purchase of the Waikiki Springs Nature Preserve. Also, in the year past, Your Conservancy has secured the last 3 pieces in the 10-piece RIMROCK to Riverside puzzle. That's the missing link between Palisades Park, which is a 700-acre park complex, City of Spokane, and the 10,000-acre Riverside State Park, 120 acres, that someday can connect these parks as an unbroken corridor for wildlife and for hikers, birdwatchers, and others. Taking a moment to look into 2021 and beyond, we are going to protect more lands along the Coeur d'Alene River, lands around Lake Coeur d'Alene itself, lands around the shorelines of Lake Pend Oreille, more forests around the great Rathdrum Prairie Spokane Valley Aquifer, more lands along Hangman Creek to accompany the 3 properties that we've protected over time. We're working on protecting lands in tandem with other conservation partners in the Salties Flats area. And we also have several landowners along the Pend Oreille River who are keen on seeing their family lands protected as working farms and forests, primo wildlife habitat, and ensuring that that land stays protected for generations to come. We are busier than ever, and I'm so grateful for your support for our work. It takes years and it pays off, and we're doing the work that will matter and stand the test of time.
Wow, what a great overview from Chris. Imagine all that conservation success in just the past year. Incredible. As Dave mentioned a little bit ago, Inland Northwest Land Conservancy has a dedicated board. This group brings the breadth of our experience and talent to help direct our regional impact. The board is also committed to building the resources necessary to sustain the organization. This will ensure that we can continue to steward our protected lands far into the future. Shortly, we will be hearing from the 3 incoming directors who you, our members, have elected to serve on the board. Before that, we would like to say our thanks to Tan Byruther, who is terming out, and to our outgoing board president, Rob Lindsay.
Todd Byruther joined the INLC board in 2015 and has helped steer the organization through a period of transition and growth. Todd has also helped expand our thinking about the ways that conservation can serve our region's changing population. As president of the City of Spokane's Plan Commission, Todd has brought a unique perspective to discussions about how conservation can enhance lives in our urban centers by providing equitable access to natural spaces. Thank you, Todd, for your many years of service to INLC and for the ways that you stimulated big picture, out-of-the-box creative thinking.
Like Todd, Rob Lindsay has served on the board since 2015 and has helped guide us through significant change. Rob has served as board president for the past 2 years. During that time, he has signed a staggering number of closing documents for the 14 conservation projects that we have completed since January of last year. He helped expand our board while bringing a focus on our priority of connecting people to nature. As Spokane County's Water Programs Manager, Rob understands the central role that the aquifer, lakes, rivers, and land play in our lives. With his leadership, Rob has kept a focus on the broader environmental significance of our work while we have accelerated our public access conservation efforts. Thank you, Rob, for your generous commitment of time and talent to leading the board over the last 2 years.
I want to echo those thanks and just add that Rob signed another set of closing documents just yesterday, and will be signing yet more conservation easement closing documents before the end of the year. So while his term is coming to an end, the work doesn't slow down, and Rob has really helped us keep pace with this growing rate of our conservation success. So thank you, Rob. Now we're really pleased to let our newly elected board members introduce themselves. We're excited to be welcoming Tony Pessamir and Brian Beeler to the board, as we welcome founding board member Deborah Schultz back to the organization that she helped start back in 1991, nearly 30 years ago. In fact, 30 years ago next year.
Hello, I am Deborah Schultz, and I am honored to be invited once again to join the Board of Trustees of the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. I have a feeling of coming home. In those beginning days, we were a small group of conservation-minded folks sitting around our kitchen table, dreaming of the organization that the Conservancy has become. One of my greatest joys has been watching the Conservancy grow and mature. Now I am excited to work with a board and staff that are so competent and forward-thinking about preservation of our local land and water environments. I am very interested in helping INLC continue to play an important role in land conservation in our greater Spokane area. As an involved community citizen, I see organizations such as INLC help improve the quality of life here. On a personal note, in 2008, we purchased a home on 8.5 acres that, over 20 years ago, was one of the first conservation easements that INLC wrote. Our land, along with our neighbor's 7.5 acres in easement, provides a small wildlife sanctuary in the midst of increased development and access to a natural playground for neighborhood kids to enjoy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Beeler, and I'm happy to share a little about myself and why I want to serve on the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy Board. I was born and raised in the Inland Northwest and am a proud graduate of Washington State University. I've had a variety of jobs, but I'm really an entrepreneur at heart. Currently, I serve as the CEO of the local nonprofit SkillSkin, where our mission is to enrich the quality of life for adults with disabilities. Along with my day-to-day work, I serve on a national board for nonprofits. Locally, I find a lot of fulfillment in the work I do for Rotary Club 21 here in Spokane. I am engaged in multiple committees focusing on ways we can actively participate and give back to the Lilac City. I am inspired by the INLC because of my love of the outdoors. I have 2 young granddaughters here and relish the time where we can be outside together. Growing up, I had the Snake River and surrounding areas to fish, to explore, and to enjoy all that nature has to offer. I am committed to providing those same opportunities to my granddaughters. Fortunately, I am at a place in time where I am ready to slow down and plug in even more to our community. In my mind, what better way than helping ensure that our open spaces, wetlands, and waterways endure for generations to come. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little about myself with you, and I hope to meet you all in person soon.
Hello, I am Toni Pessimir, and I am privileged to be considered as a new member for the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy's Board of Directors. In both my personal and professional experiences, I have been introduced to preservation projects and organizations that have taken the initiative to protect our waters and lands for future generations. As a Vista Corporation's American Indian Relations Advisor, I have been honored to learn from and work with regional tribes as they endeavor conscientiously to protect these important natural and cultural resources. Growing up in Bend, Oregon, and living in the Pacific Northwest, I have relished my time in nature, whether it be hiking, backpacking, biking, camping, skiing, kayaking, or experiencing a new activity with family and friends. I look forward to learning more about this organization and how it connects people to nature with a variety of approaches, and I'm excited to participate in INLC-sponsored activities. I believe my business degree and MBA, along with my professional experience in the community for over 30 years, can contribute to the organization and complement the outstanding skills and backgrounds of other board members and dedicated staff. Thank you.
Partnerships are central to all of our conservation success. Conservation-minded private landowners generously commit their land to permanent protection, engage community members, advocate for the preservation of a favorite natural space. Donors invest vital resources towards our mission impact. Agencies, they assist in ambitious restoration projects on conserved lands. Partners truly make this work possible.
It is our tradition each year at our annual meeting to recognize a conservation hero, one of our partners who has played a key role in helping to achieve great land protection success. This is always challenging, but fun. It feels good to thank and recognize our partners, and yet there are always many more folks who are also deserving of the spotlight. This year was certainly no exception. I'm so pleased to be presenting our 2020 Conservation Hero Award to someone who I admire as a conservation professional, and am also really glad to call a friend. It's a blanket for heroes.
Is it a cape?
Yeah.
Or I guess
No, it's not a bib.
Oh, man. I enjoy working with Paul and had the privilege of hiring Paul, probably 10, 12 years ago. When you see somebody who is clearly passionate and committed to his work and what he's able to accomplish, honestly, it's infectious.
Every time I talk to Paul, whether it's work-related or not, the conversation always comes back to trails. He lives and breathes public access to land.
Oftentimes when I'm out doing field work with Paul, we can get completely derailed by looking at native plants along the way.
I love seeing places preserved, but I also feel a strong need to make sure that these areas are providing benefits to the public, and the public sees that, because I think that really drives people to care for these natural places and to ultimately act to protect them.
I think one of the greatest things about Paul is that he is also an avid recreationalist. He's out on these trails, he's out in the community and is really involved. He loves that. It's in his blood like it is mine.
He is constantly looking through the lens of one that is enjoying the facility and in reality spends a lot of his own time after hours out in those parks and in those trailheads.
If tragically you were pierced and your magic jelly came out, what color would it be?
Have to be green.
Yeah!
Sometimes I don't know that Paul is in the office until I hear one of those outbursts of laughter as you described it, and it's like, okay, Paul's in for a bit.
Ha 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 ha. I can't quite pull it off, but
I'm not even gonna try.
I know it involves, throwing my head back and really laughing whole body, and no, I can't do it.
That's Paul.
What's your conservation superpower?
Oh, man.
Superpower.
I don't know. I mean,
the Make Beacon Public is probably the biggest impact for us and for all of the recreators in the Spokane area. He's just really put the plan together. He's taken input from all the groups and different organizations that he can have help, and he's taken the ball and run with it.
my superpower might be always keeping in mind the big picture, and when I start out any project, casting the net wide and identifying all the interested parties that might play a part in making something happen. Each project has its own challenges, and you've got to find those right people to partner with to make it happen and be a success.
I think we don't fully understand as citizens in our community what a gift it is that we have conservation futures and its ability to acquire property and preserve it for generations. Then to have Paul take that gift and really build on it, both on the public and private side, being able to see this puzzle of land and bring it together.
It's hard to feel something for a place that you don't know. That public conservation, land conservation side really feeds the private land conservation side as well. Public land and private land conservation are intertwined, and they should be.
When you see somebody who's that passionate about what they're doing, it really draws you in. I'm so impressed with what he's been able to accomplish with his vision and take it and really walk the talk in so many ways.
He fills a really valuable niche for the Spokane community. A lot of the lands that we enjoy would not exist except for those fantastic grants that he writes, and he manages to get things done.
I kind of just have my foot on the gas pedal, and when one conservation project wraps up, I'm already deeply into the next one, and that's kind of how the last 10 years of my life have been.
He has made an impact that will last far beyond any of us. This community, this outdoor community, is what it is because of his passion, his creativity, and his dedication to making it that way. And we are so fortunate to have him on our conservation team and as an advocate here in our community.
Directly to the camera, as if you're peering deep into Paul's soul.
Gosh. Okay, well, I don't know that I want to look deep into Paul's soul, but
I just want to say thank you for just being the awesome human that you are and the work that you've done for the community and the legacy that you're building.
There's an awful lot of trails that would not exist without the work that you have done behind the scenes, making that all possible for all of us to enjoy. So thank you.
on behalf of the community, but mostly for me personally and what I'm able to experience in those conservation future properties. Thanks.
Paul, I just want to say we are so thankful for everything that you do for the outdoor recreation community.
I appreciate your friendship, your professional guidance. I mean, this is a big honor, and I know you appreciate it. I know you don't take it for granted. Just don't take it anywhere else. Keep it at Spokane County. Thank you, Paul.
And action.
Dude, Rowan is going to be so proud.
Well, that was fun.
Looks good, right? To fly around, huh? With the cape on.
It looks great. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you to Paul and all of the team at Spokane County Parks for your excellent management of the Conservation Futures program. We are grateful for your commitment to protecting open space in Spokane County. Thank you for recognizing the important relationship between public land protection and private land conservation.
With the amount of activity that we have going on as an organization, I don't blame you at all if you're having a hard time keeping track of it. We'll now hear a little bit more about three of our key project areas. First, RIMROCK to Riverside, our multi-year project to conserve a missing link in the chain of parks that connect the downtown core of the city of Spokane 10 miles north to the shorelines of Long Lake. This represents a prime opportunity to connect people to nature while protecting an important wildlife corridor.
Next, the Lower Coeur d'Alene River, where we are partnering with private landowners, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Coeur d'Alene Tribe of Indians, and the rest of the basin trustees to permanently protect private lands that will be restored to clean, healthy wetland habitat.
And our newest community nature preserve, Waikiki Springs. Thanks to many community partners, public support, and Representative Marcus Riccelli's vision, INLC now owns and manages a 95-acre public nature preserve adjacent to state land along the Little Spokane River. These are lands where the cold, clear waters of the aquifer pour from hillside springs, providing an ideal habitat for native species of fish and wildlife. We are thrilled to partner with our friends at the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife as well as the Spokane Tribe of Indians for habitat restoration and future native fish reintroduction.
I think if you ask most people in Spokane, even the most active trail users, about Palisades, they really don't know it exists. It's really one of the absolute hidden gems of Spokane County. Because I live in the RIMROCK and Palisades area with my family, it's really the heart and the center of so much of my life. These trails connect right to my house, and I'm often out with our dog on our mountain bike. We trail run out here. I've seen all kinds of amazing stuff in the Palisades area. The changing landscape throughout the year, the moose that migrate through the area, the birds, and I've seen the sun come up through the fog. I've seen the trails austere white and yellow like they are now right before winter. I've seen them super saturated green It's really a special area. It's a fantastic area. We want people that want to live here, and trails like these are part of what makes that happen. The work of INLC and Conservancy in general matters so much. If we can't protect this land, if we can't lock it in to some kind of natural state, you end up losing it. It's the best of what this part of the country has to offer.
I've always been passionate about the natural world. Originally wanted to be a biologist, researcher, and decided I could do more through conservation work, and because I wanted to protect it more than study it. It's almost amazing to me that people don't realize all of the ways in which we pollute the lake and the river.
With the high concentrations of lead, cadmium, arsenic, zinc, those are the heavy metals that we're talking about associated with the historic mine waste contamination. We are seeing a lot of use out there and a lot of folks coming into the area that are unaware of the fact that they're in a Superfund site.
But at least we can purchase conservation easements on the lands and work to restore those to being healthy.
These parcels are also within the tribe's Aboriginal territory, and so protecting those into perpetuity is really important for the Coeur d'Alene tribe.
They're protecting shorelines around, up and down the river and off some of the chain lakes.
We wouldn't be able to do what we're doing as far as restoration in the Coeur d'Alene Basin if it wasn't for the partnerships.
It's just a really critical program for trying to restore habitat, especially for wildlife.
We know from years of data collection and modeling with EPA that the majority of the contamination from the Coeur d'Alene River is within the riverbed itself. You know, abiding by boat wake regulations, that's a big thing. And then for the lake, which is the heart of the Coeur d'Alene people, awareness of why we should all be good stewards of the landscape around us.
Stay involved with the conservation groups, talk to the agencies. I think we just have to keep working with the communities like Coeur d'Alene.
Not planting green lawns up to the water's edge, not using unnecessary chemicals or disturbing riparian buffers, which are a thin ribbon of protection from what we do on the uplands and upper landscapes. So I think it's just informing people of why we need to protect our gem, the lake, and address the conveyor belt of contamination coming down the Coeur d'Alene River.
Two of my favorite moments were being up in Swan Lake last summer, and we saw a female moose on the shoreline, and much to our absolute astonishment, we watched her give birth to twins. And another one that was just spectacular was a huge flock of brown pelicans just flew over our heads as we were cruising down the river. Those kinds of moments are just awesome and make me want to keep coming back.
The work that we do now is generational. Coeur d'Alene Tribe, we always try to do work for and think of 7 generations ahead.
It started with a ripple, like a ripple in the Little Spokane River, and it grew to this effort. A few years ago, Fish and Wildlife decided they were going to, abandon their plans for a fish hatchery, and the property was looked to be sold on the private market. Together, starting with a simple article that I read with a high school classmate in the Spokesman Review talking about the neighborhood's effort to protect the switchbacks here, led to this community conversation. We're going to be protecting 95 acres just over my shoulder. We're also going to be protecting over 1,700 feet of shoreline. We're going to connect the dots over the next years, and this is one of the key puzzle pieces to make it happen. Protecting this land doesn't just mean that we get to recreate in it and enjoy nature. It means that we're protecting fish habitat and the possible reintroduction of native species of fish into our Little Spokane River. I'm really passionate about this project. It's important to me personally because I get to bring my kids here, show them some of the great work that we can do when we come together as a community, when we have great entities like the Lands Conservancy step up, when we have great partners like the Spokane Tribe, like our friends at the Fairwood Farmers Market, like my buddy Chris Zeller who alerted this to me to clean up the switchbacks. This connection is not just about connecting property, it's about connecting us to the land.
That was great. It is inspiring to hear from friends in the community about what this work means to them. Thank you, Andre, Betsy, Rebecca, Marcus, for sharing what INLC's regional conservation work means to you.
I invite you now to take a moment and reflect on what makes this work matter to you and those you care about. What drives you to help conserve the best of the Inland Northwest? If you're comfortable, please share your thoughts in the chat box, even just a few words describing what you love about life in our region. For me, it means a lot to be raising my kids in the place that their great-great-grandparents lived. I am deeply moved by the idea that our work might help keep this a magnificent place for my great-great-grandchildren to live. I fiercely hope that those future relatives will find rejuvenation in natural places where native plants and animals still thrive and waters still flow.
Before we wrap up our presentation, I would like to take a minute to thank Zoe McCracken for contributing her talents to shooting much of the footage that we have shared with you tonight. We also want to say thank you to the entire team here at Hamilton Studio who have very generously worked with us to film and host this event in their COVID-safe studio. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanj. I echo all of this. It really does take a village to conserve a region. We don't need to remind anyone here that we're living through really hard times. With the global spread of the coronavirus, we are all witnessing and experiencing changes to our day-to-day lives that really would have been unimaginable 10 months ago. Our communities are struggling. Small businesses are under great stress, and as is so often the case, the poor, underrepresented populations, and others on the fringe of society are bearing the largest burden. There are numerous nonprofits working directly to provide relief to those facing the most immediate need. And I'm sure that many of you give generously to support that vital work. I'm thankful that you do.
You have also chosen to be here with us tonight because you see the ways in which environmental health and community wellness overlap. You understand the ways in which the well-being of natural systems are intertwined with the well-being of human systems. You witness the ways in which our societal dysfunctions have become planetary in scale. Among other things, this pandemic has illustrated that we are inextricably connected. For many of us, the respite and relief that we have found in the natural spaces has reminded us of our connections to the earth. We also are reminded of our connections to each other, as well as the other beings to whom we share this fragile, beautiful planet.
And while, of course, we strive to alleviate the immediate human suffering around us, we also look beyond this moment to the long-term protection of the places that are essential to life, all life, in the Inland Northwest. A year ago, at the annual conference for the Land Trust Alliance, of which INLC is an accredited member, CEO Andrew Bowman delivered a galvanizing speech in which he challenged the land trust community to respond to the rising threats of land conversion and climate change. Inspired by goals of conservation scientists, he laid out a hope for 30 by 2030. That is, by 2030, the year 2030, 30% of our nation's life-sustaining lands would be permanently conserved.
We have a long way to go in order to reach that goal in the next decade. For example, in Spokane County, only 9% of land is in some kind of conservation status. And we know that Kootenai County is one of the fastest growing counties in the entire nation. This is why the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy, your conservancy, is working harder than ever, using new tools and strategies to engage the communities we serve in order to accelerate and expand our impact throughout the Eastern Washington and North Idaho.
We are grateful to you for your support, and we are humbled by the generosity of our members. In the last 4 years, we have quadrupled our annual revenues. We have grown our capacity by adding more conservation professionals to our staff. We have expanded our membership base and accelerated our pace of land protection. We look at this growth as an indication that our work resonates deeply with people. People like Alice Clausen, one of our dear conservation landowners who recently passed away and generously left us half of her retirement account, a gift that has created an amazing 8-fold increase in our operating endowment. People like Xander Bost, one of our 2019 conservation heroes, who for his 8th birthday last year asked his mom for an animal-themed birthday party and contributions to INLC instead of gifts. People like Lindsay Chudis, one of our board members, who so far this holiday season has given the gift of INLC annual membership to 8, I think going on 10 of her friends, and we know that more of these gifts are on the way. And people like all of you who have chosen to spend this time with us tonight to learn about and celebrate the enduring impacts of our protection of local lands and waters. And still, there is so much good work left to do. With your continued help, we can strive towards that big, hairy, audacious goal of 30 by 2030. Wouldn't that be awesome? In order to get there, we need your support more than ever.
While we recognize the many needs that demand attention, tonight we celebrate your investment in the enduring legacy of conservation through Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. I invite you to take a moment to consider your legacy, the world you like and you would like to see going into the future. How can you invest of your time and resources to make that future a reality? Thank you for continuing to connect people to nature by conserving lands and waters essential to life in the Inland Northwest.
Thanks, Vanj, and thanks to all of you for being here tonight. We're going to now open it up to Q&A. As I mentioned earlier, Todd Dunfield, our Community Conservation Manager, is here ready to help us field your questions. Please fire away in the chat box, and we'll get to as many of you as we can. As I mentioned earlier, Todd's email is somewhere up there in the chat. It's tdunfield@inlandnwland.org if the chat doesn't work for you. How are we doing, Todd? Do we have questions that have queued up, or is everyone...
Dave, our audience members at home are going pretty easy on you. I
Yeah,
don't
right.
have any questions, just a lot of congratulations.
A lot of celebration.
Yeah, a lot of celebration of Paul Knowles, which was well-deserved.
Good. I do see a question.
One from Heidi.
Yeah, what conservation opportunities are you most excited to pursue in 2021? Well, we've got a lot. I'm going to lob that back up to Todd. Todd, what project are you most excited to pursue in 2021? Can we go public with it yet?
I don't know. We should probably ask the executive director's permission.
Right, that guy. I don't know.
There's more in the pipeline, as we like to say, especially out in Spokane Valley around the Saltese Uplands area. We've shared with you some of our work at Saltese Flats in the past, and Spokane County is currently the land manager of a conservation area which is very popular, the Saltese Uplands. But opportunities are arising to conserve land and add to the Saltese Uplands. And so we've begun negotiations with some willing landowners about the possibility of purchasing their land in the next month or so. And over the next year, we will need to continue to working as a community to complete those purchases, because it's not just one parcel of land, it's actually a few parcels of land. So we'll be sharing more about that in the future.
That's great, Todd. Thanks. We also have a number of private land conservation easements that are in the works, and we'll be closing one very large one, as I mentioned earlier, before the end of the year. That's not one that we can talk about publicly yet, with many more queued up to close in 2021 as well. I know that Rose Richardson, our land manager, is looking forward to engaging our friends and supporters and volunteers out on the land, doing volunteer restoration work on our preserved properties. So stay tuned for those opportunities as well. The stewarding of our lands as we conserve more lands and add more acreage to our now going on 23,000 acres of permanently protected properties throughout eastern Washington and North Idaho. Let's see. Oh, I'm so glad to see Vicky's Saltese Uplands exclamation mark there. I'm glad you're with us, Vicky. I see a question about the Sproul easement. Is there any indication they might lead the way for an access easement? Yeah, very good question. And I'm grateful that you've asked it. So that land is private property. The conservation easement does not require public access, and the current owners are disinclined to grant public access based on the most recent conversations that we've had with them. So we really ask Dishman Hills trail users to respect that private property. If there is ever a chance for a trail easement into the future, those chances are eroded by irresponsible trail use now. So for now, that land is private. It's in a beautiful wildlife sanctuary and hosts some very mature timber as well. So it's a refuge that is obviously very well worth protecting and respecting. So you're going light on us. What else can we talk about here? Vanj, do you have any questions for me as a board member? What kind of new projects am I going to spring on the board in 2021?
Yeah, what is your and it doesn't have to be, did you have, what is your vision going forward for the Conservancy?
So that's a great opportunity to talk about the long-range vision and impact work that our staff and board are going to be launching into in the new year. With grant support, we have hired a facilitator to work with us through a multi-month-long process of re-examining our mission and our impact, our organizational values, and how we can best focus our efforts on the multitude of conservation opportunities that are coming at us all the time. And so frankly, I don't know what the outcome of that will be other than increased clarity around how we prioritize work, how we screen new projects that and opportunities that come our way, how we look for increased community engagement in land conservation, and how we align all of this work around a very clear set of priorities. I know that many of you who are with us tonight are longtime Land Conservancy friends and supporters, and some of our work, our public lands protection priorities, have come as a new direction to you. And so that's something that we're going to be digging into more deeply as a staff and board, and making sure that we know how best to focus those energies. Any other questions coming from the gallery, Todd?
The gallery is, Marcus Riccelli did make a nice comment and reminder of our shared time together as students at Gonzaga University, where we both attended and were members of the class of 2000. So doing great things out there, Marcus. Keep it up.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, those of you who know the story of our protection of the Waikiki Springs Nature Preserve, that was an opportunity that Representative Riccelli really helped bring to fruition. There had been community interest and support for years in acquiring the land, the private land that was up for sale and ripe for some lovely Little Spokane Riverside home development. And without the funding that Representative Riccelli was able to advocate for, it would have been a much longer project and may not have happened in time to meet the seller's needs. So, so grateful that you're here with us tonight, Marcus, and looking forward to more conservation projects in the future. We'll see.
I hope you've learned more about the state of the Conservancy in 2020 and discovered how your membership is making a long-term impact in our community. On behalf of the entire board, I am glad that you could join us tonight, and we hope to see you in person in 2021.
Amen to that. Thanks also to you, Vanj, for joining me in hosting this online celebration. Good night, everyone. Soon we'll send out a follow-up email with an invitation for you to give the gift of conservation to those you know who would love participating in this work with us. Thanks again for helping us connect people to nature by conserving the lands and waters essential to life here in the Inland Northwest. We're wishing you a happy and healthy holiday season and hope that you can find time to wander out into a beautiful natural space that fills you with inspiration. Good night.
Good night.